Alright, so my name is Seth, and what I have here is piano, keyboard, octave, made with dynamic components. And when I interact with the keyboard, it presses down the keys, and you click on each key. And when you click on them, they'll revert back to their original position, as so. I also managed to find a way where if you click on these buttons that I made, it'll make the chords. So C chord major clicks all the keys in C chord, and this is all in the key of C. So D minor, E minor, F minor, F major, G major, A major, and B diminished. So I did this all with dynamic components. So what I did was I clicked on the component and I right clicked and I went to dynamic components, component attributes. So what I have here, which looks like a lot of nothing, is that it breaks up all of the components inside this giant component into separate parts. And hold on 1 second while I minimize all of these. So if I go inside this component, everything's broken up. So all the keys are their own component, and they're labeled in the top right over here, top left. C1, C#1, D1, and so on. When I click out and I highlight everything, it shows all the components right here. And over here where it says CMA chord, those are all the buttons on top. So if I click in, this is CMA, DMI, EMI, FMA. So what I did, to make it so I could click on the keys and have them go down like that, what I did is I went to each of my keys. So let's start with C1. I looked at its position in the Z-axis. You can do that by saying add attribute and Z should be here. So let's start over let's start over. So right now, since I deleted those, if I try to interact with C, it won't let me. So let's try it. Add attribute, Z. So we know that right now the C key is at 0 inches in the Z axis, and that's the up and down. So right now we know that when it's in its normal position, it's 0 inches. We add another attribute called onClick. So the way you work onClick is that you have to write programming. You kind of have to program into it to let you do cool things. So it uses commands. So we want to animate this C key. We want to animate it so it goes up and down and whatever we want it to do. So we do that first by typing in the word animate. Alright. After that, we have to set what is going to be animated and how it is. So what we do first is that we put an open parenthesis, and then we put in a quotation mark, and this is the first thing we're putting in is what we're saying what we want to animate. So whether it be its X value or the Y value or the rotation, you can put anything you want. But for now, we want to put Z, end quotation, comma. So what we have so far is that it's going to animate the Z-axis, and remember you need quotation marks, comma. Then you put its starting position, and we know that's 0. And I did a little experimenting, but I know this number now. The next number you put in is where you want it to go. And I already know where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to go at negative 0.2. End parentheses, enter. Sketchup messes up a lot, and when you try to click on it, it'll say invalid entity to animate Z. So the way to fix this is that you go into it, you get rid of the quotation marks, and you press enter, and you click on it. After clicking on it, you put the quotation marks back in, and you press enter, and then it'll work. I don't know why it does this, except in that case. Let's try it again. There we go. I don't know why it does that, but you have to do that every time. It won't work the first time, but you have to get rid of the quotation marks and then try it again. Remember to press enter after you change your on-click behavior. So, and after that, there you have it. When I click it, it goes to negative 0.2 inches. When I click back to it, it goes back to 0. So that's how I did every single key. It allows me to press every key and turn them all, which is pretty cool. So as for the buttons, what I did was that these buttons were there before. What I did is I went into this component and I created a circle. Just a simple gray circle that I moved around. And I named it CMA chord, which stands for C major chord. And it's its own component. So what I did is I gave it on-click behaviors. And usually when up here when it says animate Z, it means animate the Z of the component that's selected. So this is only going to animate the Z axis of the C key, just this key, nothing else. So we need a way where if we on-click, when we click this button, it'll be able to animate different things that aren't the button, because we don't want the button to move. So what we did is that it's the same thing. You say animate, quotation marks, and if you want to animate something that isn't like the current thing you're selecting, like the button, quotation marks, you name the component first. So C1, alright, we want to animate the z-axis of C. So we say C1, because that's the name of this, exclamation point, Z, end quotation mark. So what it's saying is that it's going to go to the C component, go to the Z attribute, and use that. And 0, negative 0.2, and all that. And after all that, what we get is when we click on this button, it doesn't move the button, the z-axis of the button, and moves the z-axis of these things. And you put a semicolon at the end of here, and you're able to animate different things at the same time. So using those programming behaviors, I was able to do D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. And they were all pretty easy for the most part. And that is how I use dynamic components to make a keyboard, basically. You know, it's very hard to grasp at first, but after looking at it for a long time and looking up guides, I managed to get it. So thank you for watching. Oopsie. And